Gani as your host. On Modern and Modest, we always look out to bring the best in you. Today we will be speaking to two very interesting individuals, Daniyel from Style Me, assisting us in how to coordinate our wardrobes and a little insight more about fashion and just being stylish. Our next speaker would be Dr. Rohini Desal, who will be sharing some tips and advice on how best to keep ourselves up to date with the latest in dentistry, aesthetic dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and just a basic dental oral hygiene. Trends come and go, but we can all agree that style is timeless. How many of us stand in front of our wardrobes trying to figure out what we can pick out for ourselves to feel more trendy or keeping up with the latest fashion? I've got someone with me that believes life is too short for boring clothing, none other than Daniyel from Style Me. Well, Daniyel, good morning and thank you for joining us and welcome to Modern and Modest here in Durban.
Thank you, Nush. It really is such an honor, and thank you for inviting me to speak on your show this morning. This is absolutely wonderful, and I'd really like to thank the AHA Avondale Boutique Hotel for really welcoming us this morning. They have been absolutely wonderful, particularly Sharon. Sharon was very warm and inviting and really helped me out with a few things which I needed.
Okay, I was just so excited when I've gotten to know that I would be interviewing Daniyel from Style Me. I mean, you've got such a fantastic eye for fashion and color and trend. And speaking about fashion, I think I need you to identify or tell me, what is fashion? I mean, we hear it all the time, but what is fashion?
Fashion really, and I think let's define fashion and style, because I think we need to do both. Fashion is definitely a trend that comes and goes. So we have our fashion forecasters internationally who actually, they give us the latest trends for the season ahead of time. We have our fashion innovators, we have our fashion mainstream. So if you had to look at a graph like that, fashion mainstream, and then we have our fashion laggards. So fashion really lasts, these trends really last for about 3 years. Whereas style is a timeless thing. Style is your own interpretation of fashion, including timeless items. You really, really need to focus on those timeless items. Invest in some quality, beautiful quality garments that maybe cost a little bit more, that are going to last a long time in your wardrobe. So we want them to be, a good 5 to 10 years in your wardrobe. And then fashion items, you can include fashion items, but not just any old fashion. You want to actually include fashion items that suit your particular personality and your particular style. So are you more of a dramatic? Are you more of a romantic? Or maybe you are a natural personality type. So I think it's understanding you as a person and not just following the latest fashion, the latest trends. You need to include items into your wardrobe that are you and not just what the latest trendsetters are presenting.
Isn't that just so interesting that every individual has got his or her own ID, and your personality tells your style, the way you dress, and like you've just mentioned, fashion is changeable every 3 years, and it still comes back to who you are, your personality, your style, and how you would incorporate fashion to your own style. So Daniyel, from what I understand, you are an author of Style Me and a fashion designer, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So why did you choose fashion designing, and how long did it take you to qualify?
Well, Nosh, it's quite interesting because from the age of 5 or 6, I actually knew I was going to be a fashion designer. So my mum is a fashion designer, my dad is a graphic designer, and they always raised us by saying, you can be anything you want to be. You don't have to be a designer. Become a doctor, become an accountant, do what you want to do. And these genes that we inherited were actually just so strong that I ended up becoming a fashion designer, and I knew that at the age of 6. At 6 years old, I was actually creating garments for my little sister and saying to her, here's a beautiful pair of shorts for you, beautiful outfits made out of scrap fabric that my mom had lying around. And my mom used to say, had a look at Rachel and said, you know, really, you are not coming out with me like that. You have to wear what I want you to wear if you're going to come out with me to the shop. So yes, from the age of 5 or 6, I was sewing my own garments, and I just knew.
So creativity is definitely a part of your genes, I would think, coming from a family of designing, what's it, graphic design, fashion design. But I know you've recently branched out in not just author, not just fashion designing, but you also run little workshops. Can you tell us a little bit more about what these workshops entail and what is it all about?
Well, Nosh, I've actually got a variety of workshops which I run. So I've done an amazing one, which is how to pack 70 plus outfits into 7 kgs. I've done another one, which is makeup and Merlot, which has been really great. That's really, really taken off. So many ladies are wanting to get a group of 10 ladies together, and yeah, we put together makeup and Merlot. It doesn't have to be one. We could do, you know, something different. So it doesn't have to be with one. But yeah, that's really worked well. And then the color workshops. I do a lot of color workshops for groups of ladies as well. And yes, in terms of enhancing your professional image, I do a lot of branding presentations for corporates as well. So my branding presentations have been very popular in the corporate sector, which has been amazing.
Now, you've mentioned color analysis. Would you find that it is important for an individual to perhaps do a color analysis? Because it does identify your style, your personality, or what looks good on you. Maybe colors that you favor and colors that you don't favor. Would you think it is advisable for individuals to do this color analysis? And what is a color analysis?
A color analysis is actually, you know, finding out the colors that suit your skin tone, your eye color, and your hair color. So by holding up color against you, for instance, if I had to hold this green up against me right now, that green reflects against your skin tone, reflects into your eyes, and it actually makes a difference. So this color green is one of my colors, my signature colors actually.
Okay.
And when this green is reflecting into my eyes actually illuminate and they become more green, and my skin radiates more. So finding out the colors that suit you it really is an advantage to looking your best and feeling your best, and also giving you that confidence knowing that those are the colors that look amazing on you and you can step out looking stylish and looking fabulous.
With fashion and styling, given how we dress here in South Africa, it's very much determined by our climate, our environment, and yes, we are influenced by the fashion and style that happens abroad, you know, that does come to SA at some point. But do you think in all your years of study and research, do South Africans have their own fashion or their own type of style compared to other people globally?
No, yes, they do. I find South Africans are very conservative with their dress. They're very nervous to branch out and try something new. I also find after styling plenty of clients that our South African ladies are very print driven. And I think this is because they're actually not sure how to accessorize. So they're very nervous to put the wrong thing together. So they're very, very print driven. And one of my favorite quotes, which I came up with, was there's nothing more dated than yesterday's newspaper and last season's print. So that for me is my favorite quote. And yeah, I just think our South African ladies really need to embrace a few trends, embrace the timeless elements in their wardrobe, understand that it's not all about the print. Print you're going to wear 10 times, and a plain you're going to wear 200 times or 500 times, and you're not going to get bored of it. So I really think that that is a difference between the European market and the South African market.
Well, that's where you would come in play, I think, when you're purchasing a plain garment, and you can then assist in styling. How many different ways you could get to use that plain garment. Maybe add on the accessory or a different neck scarf or a head scarf that we would call the hijab. Now, Daniyel, you chatted about South African women being conservative. You may have noticed that in our Muslim community, our dress code is also conservative due to religious reasons. And as women, we have to be modest. But in saying so, which is great because you see the younger generation now in the Muslim community is now starting to branch out into wearing more colors, whereas if you find with the older generation, they used to keep to black, I think being conservative and maybe not transparent and being modest. So with our Muslim women, we can be modest, meaning that we just need to be covered so you don't reveal any shape. But for those women that still keep to black, how can we spice those wardrobes up? Maybe black's not the ideal color to wear in summer, or maybe not the daytime color. And just as a woman, I'm sure that makes you feel a little more confident or better when you add in that accessory or a different color headscarf. So are you able to guide us through that and help us put that together?
Yes, Nosh, I must say, I really, really love styling Muslim ladies because it's definitely a wonderful challenge for a stylist because you are dealing with areas where you're not meant to see the body, and you are dealing with other areas where you can enhance those assets. And I think a lot of the Muslim ladies, I mean, they've got beautiful eyes, beautiful skin, and I probably am generalizing here, but I think that is definitely, I mean, your attention is drawn upwards towards the eye. So that neck scarf is very important. I love what you've done today with your spotty head scarf. I think it really is beautiful. And I think women mustn't be afraid to accessorize that area. I've got some beautiful scarves which I'll show you on my rail a little bit later, but to maybe bring in a fashion color. We've got that whole, I call it the macaron color palette coming through. And yes, there are more pastels, but you can actually incorporate those even with a black item in your wardrobe. So you can accessorize with maybe it's silver, maybe it's a macaron color, like a pale pink or a dusky pink. Really, really beautiful for spring or summer. And then also, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of the shoe. We could always look at that. And your abaya, your actual abaya itself, does not have to be black. I think, we were so stereotyped with it having to be black. And I think we can really branch out here and, use a different color for your abaya, So I think let's give it a little bit more of a whirl and get a little bit more creative.
Well, when you chatted about investing in a few pieces, I think that's for a Muslim lady's wardrobe, it comes down to investing, because we do wear regular clothing, and it's when you leave home that you would throw on a loose piece of clothing, being an abaya or a throw. But what we could do is invest in a few pieces, maybe your basic shades of abaya, and you could help us in accessorizing the hijab, or how we could put it together with a different pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to have a full rail of abayas, you could have a few, but it's just how you put it together.
Yes, it's about mixing and matching and actually combining it cleverly. And I also just think, I mean, what you've done today with your lip, I love your lip color. To pop on a lovely lip color, I mean, that also is part of the style when it comes to your garments as well. You can really play around with that.
Daniyel, you've had this creative mindset or creative part of you since you were 6. So from the time you were 6, you knew that you had a passion for dressing people, getting people to look better or look more stylish, should I say. So would you think that an individual that wants to get into the fashion industry has to have that creative mindset or that passion before you step into that direction, or is it just for any individual that says, you know what, I want to study fashion or I want to get into the fashion industry?
No, I think the advice that I'd give to our viewers, if they're wanting to, get into the fashion industry, Do you know what? At the end of the day, it is tenacity, tenacity, tenacity. You need to have that passion. You really, really do. You're not going to get anywhere if you do not have that. So, yes, I think for me, that is exactly what I had, was tenacity. So much so that I ended up studying fashion design. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I had to actually go through 12 years of schooling to get there. When I went to my first day of school, my mum and dad fetched me from school, and when they fetched me from school, they said to me, Daniyel, how was your first day at school? I said, it was terrible. They said, why? I said, because I worked all day and I never got paid.
Okay.
So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I've always loved fashion, and I've always had that passion.
Daniyel, can you tell us a little more about the fashion industry and what background, just a little bit more about, okay, firstly, how long does it take one to qualify as a fashion designer? And secondly, is it viable for an individual today to choose fashion as a career path? I mean, you just see so much of fashion in and around South Africa, abroad, people bringing fashion from other countries here with your imports and your exports. So is it actually a viable career for an individual to get into right now?
No, I think that is a tough question, because I've always loved what I've done. I loved working in the clothing industry. I really, really did. It is quite a cutthroat business, especially with all the imports and the fabrics. You're always fighting for price. You want to go local, but then with local, it is more expensive. So then you do end up going and buying fabric from China or actually manufacturing in China. So it is a real tough one. We do, as fashion designers, South African fashion designers, we do travel a lot overseas for the latest trends. We bring back samples, and I always used to consider myself as more of an engineer for price than I was a fashion designer coming up with these wild creations, because those wild creations really are not very cost effective for our market. Our consumer will only buy a product at a certain price, and it is very, very price driven. So yes, I think you have to have staying power if you're going to work in the clothing industry. I left the clothing industry not because I didn't have passion or staying power, because I had a different sort of thing that happened to me, which kind of steered me in a different direction, which was great. But to those people that want to study fashion, I'd say it's a 3-year diploma. You can do it at DUT. DUT is still amazing in Durban. I did it. It was 3 years, and then you want to go and get a job. You want to get paid a lot of money in your first job. And I know our millennials, particularly, I think they think that they're going to walk into a position and earn triple or 5-digit figure salaries. It's never going to happen. Sorry for the millennials out there. It's not going to happen. What I did was, because nobody would employ me with no experience, I actually worked for free in the clothing industry. My advice to those people that want a great career, whether it be fashion or something else, I think if you go and actually work for a company and take it as your 4th year, so you study for 3 years, you're not getting paid anything, take a 4th year and go and work for the best company you can possibly find. Work as hard as you can for that company, and that company will probably actually employ you, number one. And if they don't, you know what? You've got that company on your CV, which is a major asset. So when you do go for that interview, you can say you work for X, Y, and Z, and that will get you your next job, and that will get you an amazing job. So for all those millennials out there, hard work does pay off. I'm 42 now, and I'm still working hard. I'm still waking up very early, and I'm still working till 2 in the morning. So yes, hard work does pay off, and tenacity, tenacity, tenacity.
So I guess working that fourth year, it's the experience that actually counts. Just putting that practical experience out there helps to boost your own confidence that yes, you can do it. But just before we wrap up, Daniyel, would you think that the fashion industry is female dominated? Is there a space for males in the fashion industry?
Absolutely not. We have a lot of men in the fashion industry. In fact, a lot of the companies that I worked for in the clothing industry were male owned, and actually a lot of them were male dominated. Really, yes.
So it's just a mindset that fashion goes with females.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, even Style Me, my company which I'm running right now, which is an image consulting company, so many people think that I only style women. And I don't. I style men as well. Men need styling just as much as women need styling. And I think to create that professional image for a man in the business place is really, really important for their confidence.
Thank you, Daniyel, for allowing us this time. I know your time is so important to you, but for you to be able to share your tips, your advice with our viewers here on Modern and Modest. And I've definitely learned and identified, or you've helped us identify the difference between fashion and being stylish. So just remember, viewers, fashion changes every 3 years, but if you've identified some sort of style, that's something that stays with you forever.